A few days ago, I uploaded this short video and wow, the response has been incredible. I've been flooded with comments and messages on Instagram, all asking for a tutorial on how to create those awesome scenes. Well, your wish is my command. In today's video, we're diving deep into the creation process. We'll be breaking down not just one, but two scenes from that short video, so you can add your own unique flair to your shorts and reels. Excited? Let's jump right in. So, firstly, I have this short clip from the podcast of Chris Williamson. Let's drag it into the timeline, extract its audio and scale video to 355% to cover entire background and position it on X to 905 and Y to 0. But before we proceed forward, let's tweak the project settings. Click anywhere on the timeline and you'll see the Modify option. Click on it and turn on Free Layer. Now, let's add the adjustment layer, matching the length to that of the main clip. Adjust the settings as follows: saturation to 15, brightness to -9, highlights to -6, whites to -11, blacks to -5, and illumination to 12. To introduce some motion, select the main clip and mark the first keyframe for position and scale at 1.11 seconds on the timeline with the same values. Move 18 frames forward and here change the scale to 292% and change X to 745 and Y to -342, copy the main clip and paste it above. Then select the second clip, move to the Cutout tab and select Auto Cut to remove the background. Now select the main clip, move to the Mask tab and select Horizontal Mask. Rotate it by 180 degrees. Mark the first keyframe for position at the same place as our first keyframe for scale and position, with X at 0 and Y at 318. Move exactly 20 frames forward by holding Shift and pressing the right arrow. Now, place the second keyframe here with Y at 68, maintaining X at 0, and also increase the feather by 100. Okay, now let's add some spice to it. For that, we require this stock footage coins falling video, which I downloaded from iStockPhoto by searching Golden Coins Falling Video. Drag it into the timeline at 1.13 seconds, behind the second layer. Now, scale it to 315%, change the blend property to screen, and add a keyframe for position at the start of the layer with X at 2327 and Y at 3840. Somewhere around here, place the second keyframe by changing Y to 815. After that, add Edge Glow Effect to it with glow value to 25. So, it's time to create the scene that you've all been eagerly waiting for. To bring this second scene from the video to life, we need an image of a man sitting in his room. Let's get started by opening Craft AI. Type in the prompt, "Man sitting in room with unmade decisions." Yeah, that's the prompt. Now, select the aspect ratio as 9:16. After generating the perfect image, import it into the CapCut. Before we add this image to the timeline, let's make a quick adjustment. Select these 3 layers and make a cut exactly at 2.27 seconds. Now, introduce our man image into the timeline. Add a keyframe for scale and rotation at the start of the layer. Maintain the scale at 100% and rotate it by -1 degree. Then, around here, add a second keyframe by scaling it up to 116% and rotating it by 1 degree. Let's duplicate the same layer and change the scale value on the second keyframe to 119%. After that, move to the cutout and select Auto Cutout. With the stage set, let's add text to the scene. Drag the text layer into the timeline between these 2 layers. Add the text Unmade Decisions, maintaining the default font family. Scroll a bit to add a glow effect to the text. Decrease the intensity to 45 and increase the range to 60. Before animating, ensure that your text layer starts at 3.08 seconds. At the very beginning of the text layer, add a keyframe for scale at 245% and rotation at -1 degree. Move 31 frames forward and place the second keyframe with a scale of 259% and rotation at 1 degree. Position it with X at 0 and Y at 343. To add the final touch, move to the Animation tab and select the Fade In animation with the default duration. And to maintain timeline, manage Make It Compound Clip to arrange it properly with other layers. Now, extend the adjustment layer from our previous scene. To conclude this scene at 4.15 seconds, select all the layers, including the adjustment layer, and make a cut here. For the third scene, I've created this image using the prompt, "Person with stress sitting in room with dim light." Now, let's drag it just after the second scene. Move to the Adjustment tab and change saturation to -14, brightness to -13, and vignette to 31. After that, move back to the Video tab. At the very beginning of the layer, place the first keyframe for scale with a value of 104%, position X and Y both to 0, and for rotation with -1 degree. Move exactly 50 frames forward, change the scale to 124%, X to 238, and rotation to 1 degree. Now, move forward 11 frames and place the third keyframe for only position by changing X to -751 and Y to -229. Now, copy and paste the same layer and select the second layer. Change the scale on the second keyframe to 129%. Move to the cutout and select Auto Cutout. After that, let's add some text to our scene. Drag the text layer into the timeline and send it behind the second layer. Change the default text to "The reason you are stressed" to highlight the word stressed, write it in uppercase. Choose a font family that fits our scene. I'm using the Sage font. Now, to add some glow to it with intensity 12 and range 11. It's time for animation. At the starting point of the text layer, mark the first keyframe for scale, position, and rotation. Scale it to 71%, position it on X at -630 and Y at -471, and rotate it by -7 degrees. As we did before, move 50 frames forward and change the scale to 87. Adjust X to -532, Y to -577, and rotation to -5 degrees. Then, 11 frames forward, place the third keyframe here. For position, change X to -1521 and Y to -805. Now, let's add another text layer here with the content, "You have decisions to make." Change the font family to ZY Energy and add glow with intensity set to 12 and range to 11. For animation, place the first keyframe at the beginning for position by setting X to 1225 and Y to -290. Then, 14 frames forward, place the second keyframe here with X at 993 and Y at -286. But before we introduce our hourglass or sand clock animation, let's add a typing animation to both texts. Select the first text, then navigate to the Animation tab. Choose the typewriter animation with a duration of 0.8. After that, select the same animation for the second text layer with a duration of 1.5. Now, let's add this clock animation just one frame after the second keyframe of this text layer. Scale it down to 74% and position it with X at 575 and Y at 490. To remove the white background, go to the Cutout tab, select Chroma key, choose the white color, and then increase the strength to 5. And for animation, move to Mask tab, choose Horizontal Mask, rotate it by 180 degrees, add keyframe for position at very beginning of layer by changing Y to -493, move 17 frames forward, here place the second keyframe with Y to 351, and also increase Feather to 100. Now change black and illumination both to -50 in Adjustment tab, and one more thing, select this layer and decrease its vignette to default, which is 0. It's time to conclude our third scene exactly at 7.29 seconds. Select all these layers and make a cut. And to add an extra touch of flair, let's incorporate the rebound effect for the entire scene. Navigate to the Effects tab, select Rebound Effect, and drag it into the timeline. Set the strength to 0 and adjust both size and speed to 1 and match its length with the third scene. But you can notice the difference between our current scene and the original scene. To bridge that gap, let's add a separate adjustment layer for the third scene. Decrease saturation to -10, contrast to 7, highlights to -8, shadows to -4, whites to -7, blacks to -1, illumination to 6, and vignette to 25. It's time to create our final scene, which is going to be quite straightforward. Let's get started. I've created this image using the prompt, person sitting on a working table in a room with dim light using a mobile. Don't worry guys, I've attached all the asset links in the description below. For now, let's drag this image into the timeline, matching its length with the audio. Place the first keyframe at the beginning of the layer for scale and rotation. Scale it to 119% and rotate it by 2 degrees. Somewhere around here, place the second keyframe with the scale at 100% and rotation at the default 0 degrees. To match it with our theme, extend the adjustment layer from our previous scene. And that's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful for your projects. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Until next time, happy editing!